You're giving a speech later today about healthcare, and it's been at the forefront for 2 years, obviously, and we've seen the Democrats trying to use the pandemic to federalize everything.
Yep.
And they've been going after single payer forever. Has the pandemic moved them closer, given them helped them gain ground, I mean?
Sure, because it was a crisis and they took advantage of it. And they're political enterprisers, and it's been on display for over a year. Healthcare was broken pre-COVID. Mm-hmm. It's a broken industry. It's not transparent. It's not competitive. You've got an atrophied healthcare consumer. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. They want to turn it over to Bernie Sanders. Borrow more money and federalize it. That's not a solution.
That original bill that Sanders has been trying to get through for years, wasn't Vice President Harris one of the original co-authors on that?
Probably was. She was one of the most liberal senators in our institution.
I used to live in California. I've had to put up with her for a long time. I got out, though. So let's talk about conservative approaches to healthcare, because I think that sometimes, we err when we just say single payer is bad. Single payer is bad, but we don't talk about how we want to approach it now. So what's a solid conservative approach to overhauling this broken healthcare system?
First of all, don't defend the industry as being free enterprise. It's big corporations, insurance, hospitals. I fight it as a CEO of a company that's not involved in healthcare. It's the biggest bottom line issue we put up with. Republicans, when we were against Obamacare, should have had a plan other than no, or I'm not interested. It would be putting laws out there that if you're in the healthcare business, you're going to tell us what it costs on the web, in print, be transparent, be competitive.
Is there a baby steps approach to that, or do you think there needs to be a comprehensive overhaul?
Even if you try the baby step approach, the lobbies are so strong in D.C. that we're more likely to cascade to a solution of more government rather than reforming the system.
I hate to use seemingly cliche talking points, but it's real. We're dealing with a corporate welfare situation here, right? Where the government is really funding these. And that, again, sadly, isn't that also a place where Democrats and Republicans get together? Some Republicans are still on board with corporate welfare, and it's hard to shake that.
Up until the epiphany of another, say, $13 trillion in debt when I came here 3 years ago, the unholy alliance in D.C. is a Dems rollover for Republicans. They don't care. Borrow it and spend it. Republicans try to extract those same advantages for defense. I think it's the most important thing we do, but I don't hold it sacrosanct. I think they need to do budgeting. They need to be audited. And then we don't give them that quid pro quo that's driven our country into all-time levels of debt. And that, I think, has changed with this tax and spend approach that's been fully on display since Biden got elected. I hope so. I talk about it all the time.
Do you ever feel like a voice crying alone in the wilderness?
I feel like I'm talking to the barn, like we'd say back in Indiana, much of the time.
Because remember, Republicans used to talk about debt. We used to talk all the time. 20 years ago, we talked about it all the time. And then somehow, it was like they had a meeting and said, let's not talk about it anymore. It just went away.
There are as many conservative entities that come out with their big hat in hand, wanting the government to help them, investment tax credits, legislative, administrative favors. We got to stop that. You cannot be a fiscal conservative and want only the other side to reform. You got to practice what you preach. I'm only one of 3 or 4 senators that actually votes against policy I like if it doesn't have a real pay for, or if it's going to add to our debt. That's the exception rather than the rule for most U.S. senators. You know what? I'll move to Indiana the next time you're running for re-election just to vote for it. I'll move there a year in advance just to vote for you. You do feel tired. I ran because when Trump got elected, that to me was a signal that half the country was fed up with business as usual.
Yeah.
Look at how the system, and sometimes on both sides started to converge on that. We can't let the opportunity slip away. There are only a few of us there that believe in term limits, that believe in the founders. When they set this wonderful experiment up, I always admired Washington and Jefferson. They hurried back to Mount Vernon in Monticello because they loved what they did before better than that heady time, and that'd be me.
You're not gonna Dianne Feinstein yourself and stay there for 117
I term
years.
limited myself to where I wouldn't do it more than 2 terms in total.
And that, that's a good approach because then you're more focused on what you want to do. I just wish more, again, repeal the 17th Amendment. That should have, get rid of that
If
thing.
we had it, I think you'd get the problem solvers, the movers and shakers in this country that don't want to become career politicians, but would serve for a while.
Yeah.
And then you wouldn't be beholden to lobbyists, and you wouldn't have to calculate your vote about how big you want your government pension to be.
Senator Braun, keep fighting for that fiscal utopia, please. Thank you very much for joining us.
You bet. My pleasure.